Everybody, I'm your host, Desirée Klaus, and this is the new Houston Latina Pulse. We're so excited to be here, and we also have a wonderful co-host and guest, our wonderful Connie Leon. Yay! do the drum roll.
The sound effects.
So we're really excited because Houston Latina Pulse is a new podcast that we are working together with Connie Leon with Houston Latina Collaborative. As y'all know, she is the founder for Houston Latina Collaborative, formerly Houston Latina Bloggers. I also work behind the scenes as well as the marketing manager, but really she has been the mainstay over the last, 9 years now?
2014, so almost 10.
Almost 10 years.
This is our 10th year.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we're not here just to talk about Houston Latina Collaborative because we know a lot of y'all are following us and we appreciate the support, but we're here to talk a little bit about us personally, a little bit about like our background, maybe some of those who don't know us and share. And, I've had the wonderful pleasure of like really connecting with Connie over the last 4 years now. And a lot of people don't know this, but we didn't like become instant friends.
No.
We didn't just like start following each other and we're like, oh, we're friends now. Like our relationship and friendship, and also as she's my mentor, our relationship has just grown.
It's grown over the years, especially in the last couple of years, right?
Yes.
And I think we've known each other more than 4 years because I think it was right before COVID. So maybe like 2018, 2019. Yeah. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah. And it's not a bad thing that we didn't instantly become friends, right?
But I think sometimes people think like, because of social media, right? Like, oh, they're friends all of a sudden.
Right.
No,
it's taken years.
Yeah.
And not because of anything major, but just because we've both been on very different tracks and very different paths for so long. And I think in the last couple of years, I had a need, right, for somebody to come in and help me with Houston Latina Collaborative because our admin team was kind of, not available for a long time during COVID, kind of broke away. And so then I was trying to recruit somebody new to help and just bring in some new ideas and, a fresh view on what we were doing. And that's when you had already been doing work in your space. And so I was like, yeah, let's figure this out and try to see how it works. And it's worked.
Yeah. Yeah. When Connie, she didn't know this at the time, but I had I guess manifested this privately in my head, not to work with HLC,
right,
but to work with you in some form of capacity, right? And so I didn't know what that was going to look like, though.
Right.
Because there was a couple times me and you tried to connect previously, and you're like, girl, I'm busy. And I was like, oh, I get it.
I know.
I get it. And so I just was like, okay, cool. So I just kept trucking along. And then when you came to me and I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
I was just, I don't know. She knows me now, but I'm kind of like, you tell me go and I'm going to go.
And I think that's the other thing is our styles and the way we are very different.
Yeah.
Right. So even when we started, I think I was kind of like, okay, let's set all these parameters and all these things and let's see if it works. Cause we are very different.
Yeah.
You're very organized. Now that I've worked with you for this long, you're very organized. Everything, comes with structure. And I'm not always like that. I'm very chaotic and I'm like, Desirée, let's do this. And Desirée puts it together and organizes. I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I needed, but I'm not like that. So our styles are very different. Our personalities are different, which again is not a bad thing, right?
Right.
Because we've learned to mesh them well together and have really, really come up with something that's fun.
And I think me personally, if you had met me 5 years ago, girl, I would have been like, girl, I ain't working with this. Just to be honest, because I also was this type of person that was like, if it's not going right or perfect, I would be like,
right.
What's going on? I would be in that person's face.
Yeah.
Now I've grown a lot. Y'all counseling, y'all, just in general, all the things. I know what it's like to give people grace now, give myself grace. Nothing has to be perfect. Yeah. I've leaned more into just who I am and the people around me and really just absorb that versus okay, it's got to go this.
And it's kind of funny that you're saying that because I feel like maybe in some way I sensed that at the beginning where I'm telling you, I was like, okay, she's not exactly my style. It's not exactly what I the way I am, which is kind of how I've learned not to be that way because everybody's vision is different.
Right.
But I was like, I don't know, but let's see if it works. And it did work, right? Because our styles are different. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
So,
well, enough about that because we could go days about how we kind of got connected. But let's talk a little bit about our background. So we had a great opportunity last month because May. So this is June right now, y'all. So in May, we had an opportunity to go to Brownsville because you got asked to be on a panelist in Brownsville to speak about, not just Latinas, but about women and entrepreneurship and all the wonderful things you're doing. So tell us a little bit about your background. Like, are you from Brownsville? So I know some people know, but not everybody knows.
Right. So, okay, complicated story. I was born in Brenham.
Okay.
Like technically my mother gave birth in Brenham, but I was life flighted to Houston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was born as a preemie. It's so funny. I told the story yesterday to my boss and everybody was freaking out. So I was born as a preemie. I weighed 2 pounds, 14 ounces. I was not supposed to survive. Like my mom was in a coma. They life flighted us to Houston. Yeah. It was very intense and dramatic, right? As it should be. Very Latina. Well, I'm also a Cancer. This is my birthday month. So very Cancer, to be very dramatic. So I was born in Brenham. And then we moved to Houston, obviously, like just because of my health and my mom's. And they shifted from Brenham to Houston. And then I grew up in Houston, but my dad is from the Valley. My dad is from Reynosa, from Mexico, the Mexico side of the border. And so all of our family is in McAllen, Edinburgh, Matamoros, Brownsville, all the little towns, Edna. So growing up, we would go back and forth between Houston and the Valley. And somewhere in between, my dad was like, we got to move back. I want to be closer to family. My grandmother was diabetic. She was really sick. She lost a limb when I was little, like they cut her leg off.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so we had all that. So we'd go back and forth. And so I literally lived in Houston. Like I could chop it down, right? So I lived in Houston elementary school. In between, my parents were nomads, y'all. So they also lived in Detroit. So I went to school.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm learning all the things right now.
So I lived in Detroit. I went to kindergarten in Detroit. Prior to that, we were in Houston. So I did like Head Start and pre-K here. Detroit. We also lived in Fort Worth, Texas at one point. One of my brothers is from Fort Worth. And then we moved back to Houston and then back to the Valley. Okay. So elementary was like until like 4th grade in the Valley. And then we came here. I was here until about 6th grade. And then we moved back to the Valley. And I know it's a lot to keep up with. And then that was it. I graduated high school from the Valley. I went to Mission Junior High, Mission High School. And then I was like, I'm leaving the Valley. I'm never coming back here again. It was like, it was desert, right? There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So I came back to Houston in 99 and I went to U of H and I've been here ever since then.
And now you're a H girl.
Well, I've always been, right?
Well, you've always been. Yeah. To some extent,
but yeah, so I knew I was going to come back home to Houston and stay here.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And so, yeah, now with this opportunity and just in the last few years with like my divorce, I've always thought if I could move back to the Valley and like raise my kids, I would. Because it's such a small town. Yeah. It was such a my mom, like if I did anything in high school or junior high, by the time I got home, my mom and my dad knew. Because the counselor was like at the grocery store at the gas stop, you know, and like, oh, Connie did XYZ. And I'd get home. My dad'd be like, excuse me. I'm like, God damn it, you know, because it's a small town.
Yeah.
And so with this opportunity of going back to the Valley, we've kind of been talking about it for a while. A couple of other ladies who are from the Valley, who you know, Elva Blanca Beltran, she's from the Valley, Elizabeth Roy. We've talked about expanding what we do and taking it back to the Valley because we know how it is to grow up in the Valley, right? There's not a lot of opportunity, maybe. There's not a lot of groups that are empowering us to do more. So for us to have been able to come out of the Valley, come back to Houston or come to Houston and grow in our industries is huge. So to be able to go back for me was amazing. Yeah. So I'm not from Brownsville. I'm from Mission, Texas. So yeah.
But definitely, it's amazing to hear your story because I know bits and pieces of your story, but to hear it all in one, like, girl, that's a lot.
We do a lot.
That's
a
lot.
It's my parents. They do the most.
Yeah, because, and it's so interesting because I have like the complete opposite, you know, growing up. And I think that's also what I admire, though, about you is that you definitely are able to kind of like maneuver and pivot easily because, you know, a lot of that's probably been part of your life to some extent, right?
Adapting and constant change. Yeah, definitely.
But I love that you're I mean, obviously I would never want you to leave Houston, right? But I know like when you feel like your heart's somewhere and you feel like you can definitely make a benefit in people's lives, I think that's amazing that you even that could be a consideration. So don't leave just yet.
I know.
Okay,
No,
don't leave just yet because I want you around just a little bit longer. But I just love that about you, and it just I admire you in that sense because, like, man, not everybody, we can't say everybody is able to kind of get through those obstacles and see past some of that stuff. Some of us Latinas, we kind of get stuck, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're a preemie, Connie?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first time I'm hearing this, guys. Like, so
no,
just if y'all think that I know everything about her, I don't.
And it's such a dramatic story. My dad always tells a story of the doctor asked him, who do you want me to save, your wife or your daughter? And my dad's like, how do you pick? He's like, I want both of them. Yeah. I was born at St. Jude's Hospital in Brenham. So St. Jude is our patron saint. I don't have them on me. Well, maybe. I always wear St. Jude, and my mom's always those are our candles always that we light. So it was very intense. Wow. My birth was very intense.
Well, like I said, our growing up is very different. Yeah. So, and also a lot of that has to do with because my parents, I was the last of the kids. Mm-hmm. So my parents kind of, they made all their mistakes, I guess, with the first two. No hate to my siblings. I love them a lot, actually. But yeah, so they were just different parents. Yeah. Then, my parents grew up during the 70s and the 60s. So peace, love, no wars, super hippies. My parents were hippies, y'all, big time. They were all about just having fun, living a good life. And then things started to change in their environment. And then they realized, hey, I need to speak up. I need to say something. Yeah. I have the opportunity to do so. And I always say this, and some of y'all know this, I share this a lot on my own show, Let's Almost, that my mom's grew up without a mother. And so she kind of, didn't have those normal stereotypes of having a Mexican mom tell her no. Right. Or don't do that or whatever, because, we both have Mexican moms. And so we both have had their opinions thrust on us. Yes. And so she didn't have that, which was kind of a good thing because now she's so open and vocal and she has taught me how to do that as well.
But she didn't have those limits set or those boundaries, right? Yeah. Which is not a bad thing sometimes. So, yeah.
But she is definitely a little rough around the edges sometimes. She, she'll put her foot in her mouth sometimes, which we all do as well, right? And but she's learned a lot, and she's taught me a lot. And I grew up in Houston. Mm-hmm. And I was born in Houston actually, but I grew up in the surrounding outskirts, 30 minutes out of Houston, Baytown, small chemical plant town, y'all. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of very industrial. I don't know if I'll do it, but somebody will eventually make a movie about Baytown and how Latinos just created the community. They built Baytown, they built Exxon, they built all those things. I'm putting it out there, y'all. So
I've been trying to push for those kind of documentaries, even in Northside. So I grew up in Northside, Houston, my whole life. And I've been trying forever to get somebody to document the actual culture that's in that space when it comes to Latinos and immigrants, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There was encampments there in Baytown before. Wow. Yeah, there was people who were working there to build Exxon, which is the mainstay there, which is the moneymaker there. And there's still a lot of people that still work. And my mom worked for Exxon for 10 years. My dad worked for a chemical plant down the road. But I grew up in a very traditional I always say, even though I'm Mexican American, I grew up Mexican. Mm-hmm. And I grew up Mexican, strict Catholic, can't get married. You gotta, what is it? You can't move out of the house. You got to get married. Mm-hmm. You all these things, all these expectations. You're going to go to school. You're going to go to college. But they were also kind of American, right? Yeah. So they gave, my sister got a car when she was 16. And, my brother also got a car. I didn't get a car until I was in collage because that's how much.
I didn't either.
That's how much they ruined it for me.
I was 18. And the only reason I actually got a car is because my younger sister, who was younger than me, was starting college and she asked for a car. I was riding the bus.
Oh my
I rode Metro to U of H every day for almost a year.
Yeah.
My sister graduated. She was like, hell no, we're getting a car. I was like, okay. Like, I'm the oldest of four. So I was always like, no, I'm okay. And my sister was like, hell no, we need a car. So So I didn't get a car until I was 18, 19.
So it's interesting because even though our backgrounds are so different, we both are like very involved in the community. We love to support the community. We love to talk about like what is happening and also like how can we help? How can we support? So that's one of the things about this podcast we really want to talk about is, not just what we do, but the community advocacy work, networking, y'all, business planning, strategic planning. Obviously, Connie is a master at that. She's helped me quite a bit. And we want to share those things and a retrospective a perspective of Latinas talking about it in a way that is relevant to what's going on right now. So May was busy for us. We had a lot. Man, we did a lot.
Yeah.
And I still looking back, I'm like, how did we do any of that? Right. But when we were working on the podcast, just setting up earlier, we're like, anything we do, we like to have fun because that's my actually motto. If I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it. Whether it's work related or fun related, I got to have fun.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit though about the networking side of things, because that's really been like kind of, I think, a common denominator. I'm really learning how to network because I've only been networking the last couple of years. I haven't been in the community, involved in the community as much as you have. So tell us a little bit about, I've shared some tips obviously on social media, but it's also good to hear it from your perspective. You've been doing it a lot longer than I have. So share a little bit about networking. Like, what are your thoughts?
So I don't think I ever thought about it as networking. For me, I'm such a natural, just like people person, right? So for me, it was just about building connections, right? Building connections, making friends. Like, when I came here back to go to college in 99, I didn't really know anybody. I had to start over. I was at U of H. It was myself for a long time, for a year. And then I met my ex-husband during that time. So his friends kind of became my friends, but he's from Southwest. So it was such a different place. And then my sister started school with me. Like I said, we were in college together. And so my sister, she went to like junior high and high school here. Okay. So she had her group of friends, right? Going into college. I didn't. So I had to build all that through work and through school. And then when it came to networking, I don't think I ever really intentionally or purposefully said, oh, I'm going to go network and meet people. Right. No, it was just like I was going out, meeting people because of work or because of like my personal life, and connections just started to happen. My biggest thing was that when I first came to Houston and started school, I started working for the census. And the U.S. Census put me in an office in Northside where the office was NALEO. It's a Latino organization they help immigrants and elected officials in Houston. And so I immediately got infused into that space, and I realized like, oh, well, let me talk to this person because maybe there's an opportunity to do something else. So it wasn't intentional at the time. It was just like, let me just be a part of this and see what happens, right? And from there, I grew into knowing that, okay, well, if I know this person and, he can get me a job here, then I can do something better. So I just kept growing those types of relationships where I was not really understanding why they were happening, but it happened. But then also I think like my position at NALEO, putting me in the community, having to help people translate and talk to people about the census, they hired me. NALEO hired me as an assistant, and I started helping people with like immigration papers, and we would have elected officials come in and do whatever they needed to do. I just started learning, and it was just a long learning process because, that's like 20 years ago, 24 years ago, right? Because 1999. It's something that over the years I've learned, but it's more so for me about building those real connections. It's very rare that I go somewhere and I think, okay, I'm only going here because I need to make this connection and it's so important. If it is that way, it's usually like Desirée. Oh, I know Desiree is going to be at this place. Like, let me go and talk to her because I have something to talk to her about. And then, Desiree will be standing with somebody else and, oh, do you know Connie? And it just kind of happens. But then from there, you kind of want to discern, like, is this connection really like do I really need to talk to them every day? Like, is there something more, or are we just going to be friends and hang out?
Yeah.
And so it goes both ways, right? Is there something professional that's going to come from it or something personal? And then you kind of learn to figure that space out.
So I know a lot of people talk about when networking, being very authentic.
Yeah.
And genuine. Like, as far as your experience, do you feel like that's beneficial?
Yes. Very much so. Because if you follow me on social media, you know that I do not hold back, right? Like, I don't hold back. And so it's the same thing with social media, right? You want to be as authentic, real, and genuine as you can be, because when you meet people in person, they're going to know, oh, she's not really like always, her makeup's not always done and her hair doesn't always look like that. So from the beginning, when I meet people, I try to be as real and authentic and just myself. Because in the long run, if they're going to recommend me to something or they're going to, introduce me to somebody else, I want it to be because of who I really am. Yeah. Not because I'm trying to be somebody or gain something from it. Yeah. And a lot of times, like, people who know me personally have recommended me to a lot of professional stuff. Yeah. My job that I'm at now, it's because of somebody who knew me personally. She's like, I know you do this work and I've met you in person. I think you'd be a great fit. And I'm like, okay. And it worked out. And and I don't have to be anybody who I'm not. Yeah, you're not pretending. No. I think that's the way I roll as well. I always tell people what you see on camera is what you're going to see in real life. Like, this is not a show. This is not a, whatever. And I love when people come up to me and say, hey, like, I just want to say hi. And I'm sure you've got the same, like, people are like, oh, I know you from social media, right? Yeah. Or I've seen you, but I've never had a chance to meet you in person. And I think as someone who I consider you as a leader, I think you set a great example of just being authentic in that, because we have to be authentic because there are going to be people, unfortunately, that are going to look for ways to cut us down in some form or fashion, right? Yeah. Like, oh, well, she, this or that or whatever. And I think I love that about just not just you, but us in general, and specifically with Houston Latina Collaborative as well, because I think I would like to say we're setting ourselves apart from certain expectations, right? Expectations of, like you said, always looking nice or, always fitting some type of niche. And I think what I love also about what I've learned and loved about working with HLC is we can go to a fashion show, but we can also go volunteer on the streets. Yeah. We can, help the community during a disaster, whether it's promoting resources or talking about it. But we're also, trying to bring awareness to other topics that are happening in the community that might be controversial, right? Right. So, and I love that, because that's just showing us, like, we are not afraid to get in a little dirt a little bit. Yeah. But at the same time, if you meet us, both of us are super passionate about community advocacy. And I think through networking, I feel like, that's one of our ways of just kind of shedding the light and sharing that as well. Yeah. It's important because we have big platforms, right? And you want to be able to use your voice in a way that makes sense. It doesn't have to make sense to everybody, and it doesn't have to appeal to everybody. It's more of like, if we believe in something, and you are, right? I know your mom and like you, and the way you guys have been advocates for your mom for so many years to be in so many spaces that Latinas were not in. And like, now we have the opportunity to be in those spaces. Why not be passionate about it and speak on those things when we have the opportunity to, and we have the visibility and platform? Yeah. So for me, it's always been super important. Even with my own personal, right? When I started my own blog, Mama of Dos, I was not like, oh, I'm the perfect little cookie cutter mom blogger. No, like, kudos to you. And I love those moms. I honestly love going through those feeds and, all the pretty aesthetics, and all the kids are like bathed and, in matching outfits. Look perfect. My kids were not. And I would write about that. I would write about it. I would post about it on social media. One time I got a lot of slack because I'm like laying on the couch and I took a selfie with like my living room a mess. And I'm like, I'm just going to lay here. I don't care. And they were like, why would you post your house looking like that? I'm like, because that's what it looks like. Yeah. And that's what I've been like my whole career when it comes to this kind of space. Which is great, because people like me, so like I told you 5 years ago, maybe you met me, I was a different person. Even 10 years ago, man, I was trying to be that perfect
cookie cutter mom for my kids. And this was even without social media. This was just in general.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't even trying for a show.
Because of your upbringing, right?
Yes.
You're Latina with a Mexican mom.
Yeah. And so it was like all these expectations. And then I was like, man, I'm like dying over here. Mentally, physically, like draining.
It's exhausting.
So, one of the things that I really like to do is empower women and just to encourage them to use their voice, because we have voices that are powerful and we have voices that mean something, and we need to be able to kind of hone into that. Mm-hmm. So obviously we weren't all like this starting out, right? Mm-hmm. So share a little bit maybe some advice or tips that you could give to like, how does someone that's maybe trying to step out of that comfort zone, any recommendations or just like words of advice, that you would like to give?
So first of all, being yourself, right? Like you cannot step into a space that you don't feel comfortable in, right? So I know that the spaces that I've been in, I'm very passionate about, and I purposely put myself in those spaces. So you do not put yourself in a fashion space if that's not what you really want, right? Or if you don't have any interest in it. You don't become like a foodie blogger, or a political consultant or whatever. You have to like just really know who you are, what you want for yourself, and then feel comfortable in those spaces. For me, I know that I love food, but I wouldn't really do like a foodie blog, or go really hard into that niche. Food or fashion, it's not my thing. But I definitely knew that I'm a mom and I'm a working mom, and like I want people to know like the resources that are out there for us as now a single mom. So I just completely would like go deep into the different spaces that I know that I can use myself and then help others. But definitely, if I don't feel comfortable in it, I don't go into it. I don't like people fake it till you make it. I don't know. Yeah. Not always, right?
Right.
I can't fake being a fashion blogger and show up to all these things and girl, I wear shorts and a t-shirt every day, right? Like, no, my hair is not always like this. So I couldn't. It has to be something you really love and you know that you're going to continue to love. Yeah. You can't fake it all the time. No, it doesn't work that way.
You can't. And I agree with that. So we're really excited, though, that this is our first episode. We really dived in, I think, on some really great things. And we're excited because we're going to be talking more, not just to me and Connie. We're going to be talking to other Latina women out there that are doing amazing work as well. So if you're interested, definitely hit us up. Let us know. We really would love to bring you on. We've got some amazing work that we're doing here with the CC Go network. And we're just excited to be a part of this community as well. We want to encourage y'all, though, to obviously follow HLC, which is Houston Latina Collaborative, on Instagram. Also, we have a website as well, www.HoustonLatinaCollaborative.com. And then where can we find you?
So my personal is at Soy, S-O-Y, Connie Leon. And then my business is Creativity Well. And then, of course, Houston Latina Collaborative, I always push that. But yeah, mostly on Instagram, my personal page, Soy Connie Leon. If you DM me, I'm always open and available to chat. If it's something reasonable, y'all. No men, only women. Thank you.
And then you can find me at Desirée Celestina on IG, and then also Let's Vamonos as well on IG. But we're just excited to be able to start this new chapter, the Houston Latina Pulse. Like, y'all, we are feeling the vibes here, and we want to make sure that the community's out here and, we're eager to share and be able to bring that Latina community on. Not just Latinas, though, y'all. Hey, we're open to anybody, but we are here to share our Latina voices as well. So thank you so much. We'll see y'all soon. Bye.